Hello, thank you for the introduction. I'm Kathryn Svobodny. I'm a program manager at TechSoup. And I was initially going to start this talk with asking you this question: have you talked to your customers today? But since I know you've all been at this event, I'm going to let you off the hook. But I would like you to seriously think about, when is the last time you talked to some of your customers? Not because there was a mistake or because you wanted something, but just to ask how it's going. So this is a really important thing, and it is hard to make time to do this. But data doesn't tell you the whole story. So we're looking at clicks and how people engage with campaigns, tracking different KPIs. But that doesn't necessarily give you the why of why organizations are doing what they do. It also doesn't tell you what the customer challenges and unmet needs are. And we talked about human-centered design, agile design today, and this is a really great place to get started. And also, engaged customers are really happy customers. When is the last time somebody called you after you took advantage of a product or a service just to ask how it's going? This is a really important thing. These are some methods that we've used at TechSoup. I think that most of these are pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that I wanted to mention here is that focus groups can be really tricky. And if you're starting a program to get customer feedback, I would not start with focus groups unless you have some kind of experience doing that or somebody at your organization has a background in that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a program that we did at TechSoup using these last two methods, surveys and phone interviews. So for this lightning talk, I have a lightning case study. This is a program that I managed at TechSoup. It's called the Product Advisory Panel. And I also wanted to mention that I'm talking about my customers at TechSoup. These are nonprofit organizations. Your customers might look very different. They might be the folks that are using your services. They might be board members, and they might be volunteers, and they might be internal customers. So really think about who those customers are. So for this program, I worked with 580 nonprofit organizations. And we had a certain segment of users that we were looking at. We had some data around what it meant to us to be working with highly engaged users. And we also looked at their budget size, their mission, etc. Your segment is going to look very different than this. And we also wanted to make sure that we were really clear on our commitment and expectations for this group of organizations. We engaged them for 1 year, and we let them know up front that we were going to ask them to do a monthly survey and one in-depth interview over the course of this engagement. And again, since this is a lightning talk, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but I did want to give a list of just some practical tips that you can use when you're talking to your customers, either in an informal setting like this, or when you're doing some kind of program like the Product Advisory Panel that we did at TechSoup. I already talked about this. Be clear on who you want to talk to. Who's your segment? Is it donors? Is it volunteers? Is it board members? If you're doing interviews or you're doing surveys, always include or give an option for I don't know. Because if you don't do that, people might just start making things up. They might get frustrated. You don't want to do that. So make sure they have an out if it's something that they don't want to answer or don't know how to answer. Put something in front of them. So this could be a website, a campaign. It's a lot easier for me to show you a website and say, what do you or don't you like about this? Versus saying, what do you want this website to look like? That's a really hard question to ask people. Be transparent within your organization about what you're learning. People will be interested. And by the time you are taking the next steps to act on some of this customer intelligence, there will already be some energy around it inside your organization. And at the end of the engagement, say thank you and tell them what you learned and what you're going to do. So because of the great feedback that you gave us, we're going to launch a pilot program. We're going to change these 5 things on our website. We're going to start a Slack channel to engage volunteers because that's what you told us. So this is great because now you have a full feedback channel with these organizations. So I'm not going to ask you to put together a product advisory panel of 580 organizations today, But I do challenge you next week to try to talk to one customer every day. You might not get one on the phone, but I want you to try, and maybe you'll end up speaking to one. And I promise you'll learn something from this conversation. And really, you have absolutely nothing to lose by doing this. Thanks.